Around.
Okay, good morning, uh, and I welcome you all. At the outset, I welcome you all for this today's webinar, which is being held on the topic of most important or crucial topic of working capital management by supply chain. I'm your speaker, Manoj Ermalkar, and I'm a SCM expert, supply chain expert of last 25 years. I'm associated with ISM India as their Pune chapter, and having spent crucial years of my career in supply chain management, thought it appropriate of sharing my various experiences, the executed projects on this particular deliverable, most important deliverable of supply chain management, that is working capital. So, friends, I'll start the presentation now. Let me begin with the outline of our today's discussions. First thing first, that is, what would be the learning objectives? What would be the key takeaway from our today's discussion? Then I'll move towards the core topic of our today's discussion, that is capital, working capital, its definition, its formula, its ratio, and then the smart working capital management, which is one of the most important expectation or key deliverable of management these days. In smart working capital, we will smart working capital management, there are various aspects. We will touch upon the most important topic, that is inventory control, inventory management. We are going to discuss at length on this particular topic, and a brief on another area which actually controls the working capital through supply chain, that is DPO, which is called as dates payable outstanding or dates purchase outstanding. So first is inventory. We'll start from basics, we'll start from concepts, we will also touch upon the initiatives, step-by-step process, how to control the inventory, then strategic initiatives to manage the inventory, and then I'll also share some of my experiences of my previous organizations where I really executed this inventory management projects, inventory control projects, and then we'll discuss in brief about DPO, which is also one of the important aspect in supply chain management. So, friends, as I mentioned, the learning objectives. One is you will be able to understand at the end of this session what is working capital, what is positive working capital, what is negative working capital. You will also understand the improvement, our contribution, that is supply chain management contribution in improvising the working capital. Although working capital management is a very broad field, and major aspects of it are being controlled by or managed by finance. As a supply chain professional, as a supply chain as a leader or as an operating team member, we can contribute in these two areas. One is inventory, another is DPO. And today every management expects a person working in their business to act as a business owner and contribute in the profit and loss P&L statement of their business. So what is expected out of supply chain team is that you should understand what is your contribution towards increasing the profitability of your business. And that is why I thought working capital management as a topic of our today's discussions. Yes, there are other areas also, like gross margin improvement is there, wherein we play a huge amount of role in controlling the costs. But this area is a little bit broad, like inventory management and DPO management. So I thought, let me share my experiences with you. You will also be able to understand various inventory models after today's discussions, which are actually inventory control techniques used by various organizations. The most important thing, what we must understand or what we must learn after this session is that what is ideal inventory in my business, what is DOH, and what is inventory turns. These three important aspects one must remember while working in supply chain. We must also understand, or you will be able to understand, majority of the strategic initiatives which are actually used or which can be implemented to achieve the improvement in inventory turns basically. As we will also have, you will also understand a brief about DPO. Now let me start my discussions with importance of this supply chain management function. As I said, okay, when I started my career, at that time I started my career with supply chain only. At that time I was not aware how important this function is, because at that time it was purely purchase. I hope we all are aware about the distinction between purchase, procurement, and supply chain. Supply chain is actually end-to-end management of goods and services. Here it starts with acquisition of the raw material and delivering the final product to the customer. So many sets of activities are there in between, and that is why this function is being viewed as a very important function by all business owners, be it investors, be it stakeholders. Our this particular function was earlier considered merely as a resource function. This function is required, but now the function is being considered as a value creator. Why? Because apart from doing transactions, we are actually, supply chain team members are actually having a strategic orientation also. They understand the business. They are actually supposed to understand the business, and but the today's trend, if I see and when I meet the people, I realize that yes, they understand the business, and they try to align, or they align business objectives or business strategy with the supply chain strategy, which is why this function is being viewed as a very important function. It reduces operating costs, it actually helps in improving the customer service, and it improves the financial position of the organization. So when all three major aspects are being taken care by supply chain, then obviously it's being viewed as a very important function. And now management sees, or management expects, or a business owner expects that you should contribute to, or you should understand your contribution in the profit and loss of your respective business. Now let's move on to the types of capital. There are two types of capital. One is fixed capital, another is working capital. Fixed capital is your land, plant, machinery, building, wherein you play an important role at the time of acquisition of these assets. And then it is a variable, there is another capital, it is working capital, which is variable in nature. It varies from the business to business. It also varies from on the nature from the nature of the business. It's actually nothing. It's actually money required to run the business, to manage your day-to-day operations. But as you can see, it includes cash, your inventory, your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, so host of activities. And we as a supply chain professional can contribute in major aspects over there. That is inventory, and that is accounts payable. That is your payments to the suppliers. How? Let us see. First is understand what is working capital formula. In a simple terms, it is your current assets minus current liabilities. Any balance sheet of the company, if you see left hand side, you will see current assets, right hand side you will see current liabilities. I just put one simple example over here, wherein current assets are to the tune of around $1,60,000, and liabilities are say around 65,000. So their difference shows the positive working capital here in this particular example. That means the company's health is really very good. They are actually in a very good shape. They are able to meet their day-to-day expenses. They are able to meet their day-to-day operations with the available cash resources, and they don't have to borrow any money from any financial institution or from any external agency. If this particular if any business shows that current assets are more, current assets are less and liabilities are more, then obviously it will show as a negative working capital. That means it's a very unhealthy sign for any business. So such type of businesses last, their age is very less. I have seen companies who are not able to manage their working capital systematically have washed away. They were not able to manage their business on a long term. There is another barometer, there is another performance metrics used in working capital. We saw current assets minus current liabilities. Positive is good, negative is bad. And then working capital ratio, that is your current assets divided by current liabilities. If this ratio says that your current assets versus and current liabilities, if the ratio is 1, that means your assets are equal to liabilities. Okay, you are just managing the business, you are not managing any profit, but yes, you are just sustaining yourself. Such type of situations comes in many of the businesses, where when the market is down, when the outside economy is not doing well, when there is a global turmoil, many times people just try to remain in the business, stay afloat in the business, stay afloat in the market, and that time this type of situation comes in such type of business. Not to worry, but yes, if this ratio is your current, if this ratio is less than 1, then obviously it's a sign of worry. And uh, then we need to find out the reasons. And majority of the cases, it is observed that you're in anticipation of some orders, because of your forecasting went horribly wrong, you have ended up having huge inventory, you ended up maintaining huge inventory in your premises, and now that is actually killing your profit, that is actually blocking your capital, and which is why your ratio is either showing negative, or the ratio is less than the 1. Now so let's start our core topic today, that is managing this working capital. I just I just came across this Apple CEO statement, and it really fascinated me. What does it mean? He says that inventory is basically fundamentally evil. It's fundamentally an evil. It is good as long as it is fresh. You have to manage it like a dairy business. If it gets past its freshness date, you have a problem. That means you should have an inventory which is there, which is required, which is there when it is required. You should have as fresh inventory as possible. If it is more, if it is sitting on, if your businesses are sitting on the inventory, then that's not a good sign. Then then the company's working capital gets tied up. But yes, there are inventories are there, they are required. Why they are required? Because you need to make the product, you need to incorporate it in any of the finished good. Without inventory, how will you manage? There are some places, there are some locations, there are some areas where you will find the inventory. You will practically find that inventories are everywhere. It is at the supplier side, it is in the inbound transportation, it is in your factory, it is work in process, it is in outbound logistics, it is at customer's place, it is in some of the warehouses. Inventories are everywhere, and that is why it's very important, or rather it is always going to be an important function for a supply chain management professional to control this inventory, to manage the inventory in a systematic manner. you know Managing the inventory in a systematic manner involves a lot of strategic thinking, lot of ability to see the future. We cannot simply say that, okay, I'll curtail my procurement, I'll reduce my procurement, and then I'll try to manage the balance between what is required and what is available. No, we with the current set of with existing practices, we can by implementing some of the key initiatives, we can certainly control the inventories. How? That we will see. As I said, why inventory is required? It is definitely to take care of the variations in the lead time of the product, variations in the availability of the raw material. It is, many companies practice this inventory model of EOQ. We will also touch upon this in our subsequent slides. And then it is important, this inventory allows flexibility in production scheduling. Inventories are required, but yes, you should have fresh inventories. Now, types of inventories. Raw material inventory is there, WIP is there, that is work in process is there. Many companies have a spares business, refurbishment business, as or they have many plant and machinery in their factory. So they have to maintain this spares inventory, sometimes for your captive consumption, sometimes for your sometimes to serve your customers. Then you have finished goods inventory, because sometimes you at times you take some decision to build some strategic stock in anticipation of some orders, and that stock you convert into finished goods, and as soon as the customer order comes, you can serve the customer in earliest possible time. And that's why there are some finished goods inventories as well. But yes, one must remember that inventory doesn't come free. It comes with lots of costs associated with it. First is obviously the holding costs or carrying costs. You have to store it, you have to preserve it, you have to service that inventory, you have to insure your inventory, and obviously an acquiring cost is also there. You have setup costs of the inventory, you have to purchase that inventory, so that purchasing cost is always there. Ordering cost, there are lots of administrative costs involved in the ordering of that inventory. And then once you are aware that yes, inventory has costs, inventory is required, types of the inventories, and the locations of the inventories, let's understand now what is inventory turnover ratio and what is DOH. Everywhere, any company, at least my experience of last 25 years says that whenever your management asks about your current state of inventory, or to manage any business, we must understand what is DOH and what is your inventory turns. In a simple terms, what is inventory turns? Your cost of goods sold and the average inventory. At the end of the year, from your income statement, you can find out the cost of goods sold, and you can also find the inventory from your balance sheet. Its ratio will tell you what is your inventory turns. For example, okay, we will also see this DOH formula, and then we will see the example. DOH is your number of days in a year and divided by your inventory turnover. That shows your DOH, that is days on hand inventory. Now, see this example. This company is actually manufacturing some products, and some 1 million is their cost of goods sold, and they have starting and ending inventory of 1.2 lakh and 0.8 lakh. It shows that by putting this particular value in this formula, it shows that their inventory turns are 10. So that means more or less their inventory is getting rolled in their business in a month's time, almost in a month's time, that is in 36.5 days. So they are maintaining an inventory of 36.5 days. Good. If it is a project company, if they are providing project solutions, maybe turnkey solutions or maybe EPC solutions, this is an ideal turnover. But if it is a company which is having a cycle time of manufacturing of just 30 days or say just 15 days, this is not ideal. Now, what is ideal for our business, DOH as well as turnover, that needs to be studied in detail. What is my cycle time of delivering the products or manufacturing the products from the day the sales order is created in the system, or the day the customer order is received in the system, from the dispatch. So how much is my time? So if suppose my the cycle time is 4 months, then ideal will be your DOH should not be beyond 45 or 60 days. So you are having your inventory turns, you are rolling your inventory 6 times in a year. Very ideal. But again we need to study, an individual has to study what is required for his business. Sometimes it may so happen that maintaining 90 days inventory for a product where the lead time is say 4 months to serve to the customer is also ideal. that also needs to be, that also can be acceptable. But what is optimum and what is ideal inventory turns, that I tried to explain you. Typically it is seen that if your inventory turns, if you are rolling your inventory fast, if you are maintaining a very inventory with very limited period of days, that actually makes your supply chain very vibrant. Everybody is on toes. Your inventory management team is on toes, your suppliers are on toes, your supply chain is flexible. This is what my experience says. So the analysis, as I mentioned, see, basically this inventory turnover and DOH, they are actually inversely proportional to each other. So if DOH is more, turns are less, turns are more, DOH is less. But understand one thing, if we have to tell our management that okay, my inventory in absolute terms is say 40 crores, for example, for a company having turnover of say 300 crores, nobody will understand whether that 40 crores is right or wrong. But if you tell that this 40 crores corresponds to say 90 days DOH or say 100 days DOH, it will immediately send an alarm signal to the management. They will say that, oh, you are maintaining an inventory of 3 months, may not be right, because for our type of industry, the standard says that we should have maximum 50 days of DOH. So from there your actions will start. From there you will understand what is going wrong. You will start taking the actions backward. So ratio needs to be compared. This ratio of inventory turns needs to be compared with your industry. You should compare your this ratio with our industry only. I cannot say that I'm working in a project company, so I'll compare this ratio with any FMCG industry or any product manufacturing company or any process driven industry. No, I cannot, because industry to industry this type of ratio varies, and it is always better to compare with the benchmark. So it gives a lot of interpretation. As I said, if your inventory turns are fast, obviously you will be able to churn out the projects fast. You can create delivery as a differentiation with your customers. If there are multiple players supplying the same product in the industry, you can create delivery as a differentiation and serve the customers fast. But at the same time, if your inventory turns are high, it may also send a signal that no, you are running short of the stocks. So your growth and your inventory turnover, that needs to be always compared. If your inventory turns are high, if your DOH is less, but your growth is good, that means you are having an ideal situation. Now, let us go one step ahead. Having understood what is DOH, having understood what is inventory turns, obviously, if you are not understood some of these concepts, or if I am going little fast, we will have some 15 minutes of time for question and answers, and I would be very happy to answer as many questions as possible. So just note down your queries, and I'll try to answer those at the end of this session. So let's now move on to the next set of our discussion, step by step process to control the inventory. I am now talking about the actions which we have to take at the time of in our day-to-day operations, because inventory control is not such that you take action once and you sit and you monitor its progress. No, it's actually a very live it's actually everyday's business. Practically it's everyday's business. You have to make sure that you are taking the actions every day and you are monitoring it, and at the end of the month you are seeing you are able to compare it with your benchmark. So what is the first step? Like many times what I have seen that people run here and there in understanding from where to begin. The first step is that you analyze your entire inventory. What is there in your kitty? What is there in your system? Obviously, these days, all the data is available, or all the companies are having their functions in SAP or ERP, or at times, sometimes some of the companies are having operations in BAN. But SAP is very prominent these days. So you can take out the data from the system and analyze and put each inventory, each value in the right basket. Because see, sometimes you have items which are capital in nature, but you will term it as a work in process or semi-assembled inventory, or you may term it as a finished good inventory. Not correct, because depending on the basket on which you are going to put the inventory, the treatment to control that particular part will differ, which is why analysis is very important. So analyze each and every aspect, each and every value of your inventory, categorize it, segregate it, put it in a piece of paper, and then understand which are the items which are actually highest contributors. And the next step what we have to do is, or rather it's a parallel step, we can say, we must calculate what is ideal inventory level for my business. Now, how will we calculate the ideal inventory level? So I must understand what is my procurement pattern in a month, what type of items I am procuring, how is the flow of inward of those material, of those items, and at the end of the month, how the inventory, how my procurement is, the parts are getting converted into the inventory. I'll just take you through one small example how to calculate, or how we have calculated the ideal inventory. I'm so sorry, I think there's some problem in this file probably. I'll tell you in a simple terms. In a month, when we start our procurement, we know, or as soon as the customer order is received, as soon as the sales order is created in the system, we know that at first we take actions on the long lead of the parts, on the the parts which are having critical availability. So those parts, also those parts are required for assembly of your product, or which actually contributes to the first part of your project. So take those parts will arrive first in your business, in your factory. Then the parts which are having a very you know so a little less lead time will appear in your factory. Then the parts which are actually available off the shelf, or the parts which are available at a very short duration, those parts you will get in your factory. I'm just giving you an example of typical product manufacturing company, where to manufacture one particular product, first the raw material will come, because that is required to start the assembly or the fabrication or whatever you say. Then the parts which are required to assemble as a direct bought outs will come. Then the parts which are actually very small in nature, like gaskets and all that stuff, those are very easily available. Then those will come, because you will not dump all the parts at same time, or rather we should not do that. In many of the companies, when the production planning and control function is very active, they will make, they are releasing the inputs for ordering based on the lead time of the products. So those which are first required, they will be released first, those will be inverted first, and those will be delivered to the shop. Then once you calculate that, okay, my procurement in each month is categorized into these three baskets, then there is also some strategic stock you are building most of the times, because you cannot simply depend on the customer orders. You also need to build some of the items in anticipation of the orders. You also have to keep some of the parts as a safety stock, that we will see what safety stock concept is. So once you have these type of stocks, plus your business also must be carrying some of the legacy stock, a combination of all this will constitute your monthly procurement pattern or monthly inventory pattern. Based on this, you arrived at an ideal inventory of your business. and declare and get it signed off from all the stakeholders that yes, this is my ideal inventory, and that is obviously based on that year's sales plan. Suppose in one particular year your sale is say in one particular year, if your sale is say 1,000 crores, and you know how the monthly it is being distributed on an average, you can say that for next year, for a sale of 1,000 crores, my ideal inventory calculations are like this, and ideal inventory in terms of DOH, in terms of value, in terms of turns, is more or less going to be like this. Get it signed off, and then start building an estimated inventory for next 2 or 3 months. Because in the estimated inventory, what you need to take care, or what you need to account, is your legacy stock also. The stock which is lying in your factory, which is non-moving stock, which is in some cases it is obsolete stock also, but you cannot discard it. You are not able to discard it because of some management decisions. Take that stock, take your fast moving stock, take your strategic stock, and uh, understand your sales plan every month of next 3 months, how it is going to perform, and prepare an estimated inventory sheet and present this sheet and keep this sheet as your for your calculations, that in next 3 months against ideal inventory, my estimated inventory is going to be like this. So you have two sheets. You have ideal inventory, which is there. In any case, it is ideal in nature. If you are able to match this in immediate future, obviously you will get recognized. But if you not, then at least till you get exhausted with your dead stock, get exhausted with your obsolete stock, you can estimate that yes, now my estimated inventory of next 3 months is going to be like this, and vis-a-vis my ideal inventory, the gap is going to be whatever. Now start comparing it with the actual one, because once you have calculated your ideal inventory, once you have decided your calculated or estimated your next 2 or 3 months inventory, depending on whatever sales plan is available with you, you start monitoring it with your actual inventory, because that is actually is at the end of the month it is available. You will understand what is actually going wrong, whether it is going wrong or whether you are going in a right direction. If it is actually going correct, obviously you don't have to worry about it, and you can keep on maintaining the same thing. You can and start enhancing your performance. Now there are some areas which you will understand needs your attention. Obviously, first is you need to control your this I am saying, once you understand the gap between your actual inventory and your estimated inventory, or for that matter even ideal inventory, you will understand there are some drivers or there are some contributors to this inventory. And one of that contributor is that at times we end up buying the material early. If it is required, it may not be required in that particular month, but probably a purchaser becomes very happy if the material is coming early. But that is also not a good thing. That is also not a good sign. So make sure that you are ensuring a strict control on the inward of the material, because you must let the material in which is required. Do not buy anything which is not required, at least in that particular month. Also, do not buy anything which is not specified. Like there are companies, there are options available wherein with the help of with the help of your either CEO, with the help of your owners, with the help of your own supply chain heads, or by your own, you can order certain things, and that is purely in anticipation of certain orders. You don't know whether those orders are coming or not, but based on the historical data, typically you may take some decision. You may end up taking some decision, and you will let the material in. Don't do that, because today if you see, the market is moving several times faster. The customer change tastes have changed like anything, and we cannot guarantee, unless you are in a standard product manufacturing and standard product selling business, this option one should not exercise, and you should only order what is required. Then now once you understand that yes, I have I have estimated my inventory, I have calculated ideal inventory level, but still it is, I'm not able to come close to the estimations or to some benchmarks. And you will understand that yes, there are some dead stocks, there are some non-moving stocks, there are some slow moving stocks, which are actually, as a supply chain professional, you cannot take any decision to consume. So then you need to form a cross-functional team, and it should consist of all stakeholders: sales, planning, design, your electrical design, electronics design if it is a part of your business, your procurement, your stores. Everything should be members in that cross-functional team, and you run through this type of list every month and tell them that boss, these are the parts which are lying as slow moving or non moving, maybe because of change in design, maybe because of obsolescence. Can we alter this design? Can we make some changes into it, or can we explore the possibility of using it as it is, at least for some different type of customers? Friends, I'll tell you, this option gives fantastic results. On the face of it, it may look that this, if it is obsolete or if it is non-moving, how it will get consumed. No, it's only a mindset, and it's only a drive which needs to be taken up by a supply chain professional or a team member to ensure that this inventory is getting liquidated. Why we have to drive this? Because inventory is obviously our responsibility. Inventory is obviously our baby. Discuss these ways to utilize this legacy stock. There are various ways. One is use it as it is, as I said. One, you can make some modifications. You can change its form. You can reduce its thickness. You can refurbish it, and you can sell it. You can use it in the sales orders. You can also explore buyback option. Like you can, if the parts are very good in nature, suppose take example, you have bought some part at 100 rupees 5 years, 3 years before, or 2 years before. It is last 2 years it's not been moving, or it's moving at a very slow pace. And if your CFT or cross-functional team decides that, come, no, we cannot use it under any circumstances. But if you are involving your suppliers, and if your supplier says that, good, I am able to buy this at say 100 rupees, you bought it at 100, I will say buy it at 100. It is 100% realization. You can sell it. Obviously, you cannot recover your inventory carrying cost and all that stuff, but you are able to sell it. It's a win-win proposition. How? Because today you are able to sell this product at the book value. At the same time, the supplier, if he wants to go out and buy that product, probably its price might have become 150 or 140. So supplier is also having supplier is also winner in this particular case. Make, after doing this exercise, like I showed you some steps. These are basically the transactional steps. I'm going to touch upon your strategic initiatives also. So once you take these steps, which are actually required in day to day, make the presentation to your management. Once you realize that yes, you have achieved a success, you share these success stories. You appreciate the people who have actually helped you in reaching to this particular stage. You recognize the team members. I shared this success with my management. See, from April 18 to say up to November or December, I was literally going. I was not able to control my inventory. It was always showing some cyclic turns. It was always showing some cyclic nature. On top of it, you will see that days on hand inventory, and in this histogram you will see the absolute values. In the columns you will see the absolute values. See friends, from 34 crores to 23 crores, you will see this March 19 is not at over, but I know that there are March 19 is not at over, but we are able to declare this as an inventory, because almost we are certain what is going now, what is going to remain in stock. See the improvement, 34 crores to 23 crores, 11 crores. Imagine the kind of returns the business has got. Imagine the kind of capital which was blocked in the business has been, made freed by us. This success was really applauded, and this is purely because of, it's a blend actually. It was a blend of our transactional activities, it was a blend of our strategic initiatives also. But this is very important, and this has really increased the morale of the people. Now how does it help? See, the people who are taking actions on the inventory like liquidation, consumption, using it in your day-to-day sales orders or customer orders, they're actually, operating team members. You, if you appreciate them, if you recognize them, their efforts, and if you, felicitate them in a bigger forum, they will certainly get motivated, and the motivated person will give much faster results, much better results than a normal person. I have seen that this motivation, people have started showing ownership. Every person has started exhibiting the results in a, I did not have to do anything. People used to come and tell me, boss, these are the parts lying in your inventory, I am going to use it, let me use it. And are you going to sell it, or are you going to allow us to use it? So that was purely, earlier it was push to all. Later on, it was a pull type of system. People used to take active parts into it. That really gave us fantastic results. Now let's discuss something about strategic initiatives, which is at the beginning of the year. When you start your year, maybe it is April to March, or maybe it is Jan to December. At the beginning of the year, you must decide, take some initiatives like this. First, first get all the lead times signed off from your suppliers, because many times this question comes: what is the lead time of one particular atom, what is the lead time of x another atom? You must have these lead times signed off, because once you sign off these lead times, you can add those lead times into your system, and then at any point, and based on these lead times, your finished good lead times can be worked out. Based on these lead times, your sales team can understand what needs to be committed to the customer. So important thing is that you take these lead times signed off from the suppliers. Obviously these should be the best lead times. It's not that supplier should take any extra cushion while committing anything in writing. Use your own expertise, use suppliers experience, suppliers communication or confirmation, and add those lead times into the system. Now that is also important to achieve reduction in the near future, because once those lead times are entered into the system, you will then take steps to reduce it. Maybe renegotiations with the suppliers, maybe debottlenecking their supply chain. But on these lead times, if they are not entered into the system, you will not understand what steps are required to be taken to achieve improvisation into this. We also can contribute in reducing the manufacturing lead times. How? Okay, we can act as mentors. We can act as you can say guide to the team members. I have seen in many of the companies, we were bringing parts in time. We were successful in reducing the lead time of the suppliers. We were successful in making our supply chain the best in the our business, or best in amongst all the comparable industries or companies. But still the manufacturing time was as it is. Why? Because that particular part was unaddressed. So we helped manufacturing in understanding what are the bottlenecks. We realized that there were many unvalue added activities which they were doing, which actually they could have easily outsourced. So we helped them in understanding or implementing the concept of make versus buy. What needs to be made inside, what can be bought from outside. Many things, once you start buying from outside, it avoids lots of non-value added activities in shop, and it only keeps the productive activities in your manufacturing, and your lead time gets increased. See, ultimately, if your manufacturing cycle time is getting reduced, it is beneficial to you only, otherwise to us only. Because if your we are bringing the parts in time, and if they are lying here, you end up paying to the suppliers, or at times your finance will take a decision that no, unless the product moves or gets converted into finished good, I will not pay to the suppliers. So ultimately that product should get converted into finished good. Finished goods must get sold to the customers, and for that we must actually take help in or try to clear the bottlenecks into the manufacturing also. We have also suggested in many of the manufacturing to many of the production companies, sorry, the shops, that you please monitor your start to end process, do a value stream mapping to understand what are the lead times actually, which each activity is eating, and try to take steps into that. That value stream mapping has really helped in eliminating the waste, and reducing the lead times of the manufacturing of many of the companies. Ultimately, the stage has come, or rather I have seen the stages where the supply chain is good, your manufacturing time is also less, and they are able to serve, the companies have started able to serve to the customers in a much faster way, and that actually help them in garnering more business from their other customers. So it helps if we start getting involved ourselves into various activities, like at the time of sales order creation also, or after sales order creation also, or at the time of bill of material fixing also. If we start giving some inputs, it ultimately leads to getting a better control on the inventory. The third initiative is do the ABC analysis of made to stock, assemble to order, and made to order, and then decide where you need to concentrate. So we need to reduce our obsolete stocks every time, by way of either selling it, by way of using it. Most important thing is that we must revisit our safety stocks, because safety stock is a very comfort stock, very comfortable stock which we are creating, which we are keeping in our inventory, and we are not seeing it years together. What happens is that once many things change in supply chain, many things change in business, many things change in the economy. The products which were earlier scarce in nature have become very easy source. Similarly, the suppliers which were having which were located at a very far distance from your factory, they have come very close to you, so you don't have to keep the safety stock of such product, but you are keeping it, so that is adding to your inventory. Please revisit these safety stocks and make sure that you are keeping an optimum safety stock. It is required, obviously certain items are there for which you may need safety stock, but not to the extent. I'm sure every year if we do the audit, we will be able to curtail that quantum in terms of value as well as numbers substantially. And the most important is that we must ensure that purchaser is and the planner is owning the inventory. We must have a pull based demand. We should not buy the products in anticipation. We should not allow our people to create the sales order in the system, which are actually in absence of any customer order, just in anticipation of some requirement, and buy some product and then store it and then keep it in your factory and just keep it until the customer order is received. Let's not encourage such type of practice. This we must give confidence to our management that my supply chain is so flexible, so resilient, and so systematic that it can we can replenish the goods when they are required. I can replenish the goods on demand. See automobile companies, the kind of variants they are introducing, the kind of changes they are making into their design, it's phenomenal. How they are managing their supply chain, really good. And those type of concepts or those type of things are there everywhere in any type of industry. So every supplier has to have this type of ability to absorb the shocks, to have, he should always be on his toes. Now, while we are there, while supply chain is supposed to take many actions related to buying, warehousing, inventory control and all that, we must also insist the supply chain must also insist on accurate forecasting. That has helped. I'll tell you, the as we can see how my procurement pattern is going to be there for next year, what are the types of price increase requests I'm likely to get next year, what kind of price reductions I'm likely to achieve next year. If I am able to, like, we as a supply chain professional is able to forecast such things, and this forecast is at least 90% of the accurate if you are wise enough to sense the trends in the supply chain. Obviously your sales team, your marketing team is capable enough of giving the accurate forecasting, or at least the forecasting which is 90% correct or 95% correct. That helps, because once you get plan of say 6 months, 1 year, whatever, based on that you can decide, we can decide what kind of products are to be ordered. We can keep our suppliers informed about it. Our suppliers can take parallel actions. We will not we should not commit anything to the suppliers, but at least suppliers will understand what orders are likely to come, because in absence of anything, people will not be able to give justice. Yes, we say that we should replenish based on demand, but that should also be supported by some sort of forecasting. That has actually helped. Like once that will also help in preparing your estimated inventory. That will also help in preparing your ideal inventory of the next year. The another thing is that we should be able to reduce the stock keeping units. We should also have perpetual inventory count in the system. We must also increase the vendor managed inventory and drive the standard cost reductions to achieve the per piece reduction in the inventory value. Now, these are the strategic initiatives. Then these are then some transactional issues we spoke. Friends, now I'll move slightly faster, because I want to, there are certain concepts which are not very new in nature, but I just want to run you through all this, and then keep some time available for the question and answers also. So, ABC analysis is one of the important aspect, one of the important initiative that needs to be implemented. Concentrate on high value items because they contribute 80% of your inventory. Then B class and then C class. We must also give utmost importance to the cycle counting, because if you this cycle counting gives a very good that's very important. Why? Because if your variance is there and if you are not taking action on the variance in time, it will lead to increase in inventory or the stockouts. So one must understand that this cycle count at the end of the year and every day or every week or every month during the perpetual count system, that's very important. This rigorous system will give you fantastic results. A time will come when your physical stock and your actual stock will have a very limited variance. Discipline is the only thing which actually leads to the variance in the system. That variance actually leads to the procuring of the items which are actually available physically, not available in the system, and increasing the inventory. Understand, there are holding costs which are attached to the inventory. There at times runs into double digits also. Now there are some inventory models which I will discuss. One is basic economic order quantity model and quantity discount model. So it's actually then why inventory models? Because that models are required to understand what is to be ordered, how much is to be ordered, when it is to be ordered. That's the question. It always comes in the minds of everyone. And basic EOQ model, typically if we see the standard product manufacturing where the lead times are fixed, where disruptions in the supply chain are less, the quantity discounts are not available, and the receipt of inventory is instantaneous. There you can have this, there you can implement this EOQ model. It's fairly stable graph, and see the inventory usage. If you see the time versus inventory level gap, you will see that it's fairly, constant. You have a minimum inventory, you have a maximum inventory, and your usage rate is also fairly the same. So the basic objective of this EOQ is that you should achieve a trade-off between your holding costs and your ordering costs. And when the trade-off is achieved, at that point, whatever quantity is there, or the quantity where this by ordering this much of quantity, where the ordering costs and holding costs are same, that quantity is considered as an economic order quantity. It's very good actually, but again, it has a lot of limitations, and it is used only where there is a there are certain things which are constant in nature, like lead time is constant, and you are into standard product manufacturing company. The EOQ, if you see, the formula is very simple. We'll straight away go to that total optimal order quantity, how it is calculated. It is root 2 into demand into ordering costs and divided by holding costs. Holding costs are either expressed in terms of percentage of the procurement of the part, or it is fixed in terms of absolute value also. So once these three things are known, you can straight away calculate the economic order quantity and place the orders of only that much quantity, so that your inventory can be controlled. In example, I have just put a simple example. Your demand is 1,000, your price is in $10 per order, your holding cost is in absolute terms actually in $0.5 per unit per year. So your economic order quantity becomes 200 units. So you must order 200 units when the reorder level is touched. What is reorder level? It's actually your EOQ answers how much is to be ordered, and the reorder tells us when to order. It's simple terms, demand into lead time. How the demand on a daily basis is calculated? Your total demand divided by your number of working days in a demand. So again, with example, reorder point, if you see, if your average your yearly demand is 8,000, your 250 working days in a year, and your lead time is say 3 days, then your daily demand comes to 32 units and your reorder point becomes 96 units. So at 96 units, you must place an order of the economic order quantity which is being derived. There are another there's another model, that is quantity discount model, wherein at different quantities, at different discounts, you will get different quantities from the suppliers. But you must plot this particular table. I'll show you. Once you arrive at different discounts, you must plot this particular table, that okay, I have different discounts, but discount comes with quantities, but I cannot buy huge quantities just for the sake of getting good discount, because I must also achieve a balance between my total cost and my and my holding costs. Now in this example, if you see, there are three types of discounts, and in one particular discount it is showing that it may be lower side also, that discount may be lower side, but it is giving you a good total quantity. So consider this as your best economic order quantity, consider this as your best transaction, and based on that, using this particular quantity and using this particular discount, start ordering the products. This will help in keeping your stocks to a very optimum. Now there is another concept there of safety stock. As we discussed, that safety stock is basically nothing but the stock which is ordered or which is always kept in anticipation of some, either natural calamity, either unavailability of the products, or the products are scarce in nature, which you are not able to arrange in required time. So you are keeping some safety stock. Now, what is the acceptable level of the safety stock? Depends on company to company. In a simple terms, it's actually management's tolerance, and the related term is service level. So every company decides that I can allow 1% stock out, I can allow 2% stock out, I cannot allow more than 0.2% of the stock out. Based on that, you must understand how much safety stock or what is the acceptable level of the safety stock. See the service level. Take a simple example. Your 20 orders are placed in a year end, in a year, sorry, and management can tolerate 1 out of 20, one stock out of 20. So one stock out in a year, sorry, one stock out in a year. So what is acceptable level? That is just 5%. That means 95% of the efficiency is desired by the management. That, again, it depends on the product that you are selling. It depends on what competition is offering, or at what level competition is working. So in this case, the service level becomes 0.95. That means 95% is your efficiency. The graph looks like this. The safety stock is just between your mean demand and the end point of your probability of the stock out. Friends, I'm going to discuss in brief about DPOs, that is days payable outstanding. That's very important actually. But what happens is that if I put it in you know on a graph of say on a scale of 1 to 5, I will say that inventory controls will stand at 5 and days payable outstanding will stand at 4, because DPO has lots of things. It also creates lots of interpretation. It also creates lots of understanding, misunderstanding amongst external as well as internal agencies. So our primary focus should be on inventory control, inventory management, implementing strategic initiatives, taking steps in day-to-day business, and obviously our parallel focus also should be on DPO. So what is this? It is, in simple terms, it's actually used by finance to present the health of their accounts payable. So it's actually your accounts payable and divided by a ratio of cost of sales to the number of days. What happens? Your we are paying to our suppliers, some suppliers advance payment. We are paying some suppliers. We have an agreement with some suppliers as a 30 days credit, 45 days credit, 60 days credit. We don't know how much is the DPO at the end of the month, or at the end of the year, or at the end of the previous year. If I want to calculate in this year, what is the DPO, what is the days payable outstanding, it will not tell me whether my working capital is being systematically managed or not. How? I'll tell you with the example. Suppose you one product manufacturing company, and their on an average how much payment they have made in each day, and then their DPO will look like how much. Like DPO is say 67 days. In this particular case, it is being worked out. 67 days means you are paying to your suppliers on an average within 60 days. Suppose if this is a state of your business, if this is a state of any business, and you are actually getting payment from your customers in advance, or for that matter on credit, within 30 days, then your working capital management is very good. But suppose you are getting payment from your customers in say 120 days, because probably you are in a very standard product manufacturing market where only price and this quantity matters the most. And if your customers are paying you in say 90 days, and your DPO is say 60 days, that actually is not a good sign. That means for remaining the 30 days, you have to borrow the money from the financial institutions or from outside, and that only increases the burden on your resources. It leads to the interest, and which is why it is very important for us to make sure that reach to an ideal DPO. Ideal is very important term in DPO, because you cannot say that 30 is good, 40 is bad. It depends on the kind of business you are in. See the factors, type of industry you are in, your competitive positioning. If you are good, if you are a very huge buying power, you can negotiate good terms with your suppliers. If there are many suppliers and you are and there are limited buyers, obviously there also you can influence the payment terms, but those payment terms needs to be wisely worked out. Because if the ratio is high, suppose you are successful in reaching from 30 dpo to 90 dpo or DPO, probably the suppliers may start getting a feel that I'm not getting payment, I'm supplying the material, I'm not getting payment. The stage will come wherein supplier will start losing its interest and start diverting its resources to some other businesses, some other customers. It's actually gives a different type of picture. So what we need to understand is that what is ideal. Suppose take baby steps. Today if it is 30 days, try to make it 45 days, then make it 60 days. Do a continual improvement, monitor your performance, monitor suppliers perception. At times you can add suppliers perception survey as a tool to understand whether they are happy or not. With by adding that supplier perception survey, if you are able to, if the suppliers are giving their feedback, or if they are not talking anything about this enhanced payment terms, understand that yes, that has actually not created any impact in your association with the suppliers. Then take the next step and reach to a stage wherein there is the suppliers have also said that boss, beyond this we cannot go, but at the same time you have achieved improvement also. Reach up to that stage. Remember friends, investors also compare current DPO with company's own historical range. Investors also compare the DOH of our business with the other businesses, uh, and that is actually these two barometers actually define the health of the supply chain. Before end of this session, let me tell you that the KPIs on which the supply chain management functions, they are cost management, on time delivery in full management, quality management, and working capital management. Working capital management has become a very very important term these days, and for improvisation in this, there is always a pressure, there is always positive pressure from the management to achieve the improvement in these two parameters. With this, I end this session, and due to paucity of the time, probably I could not touch upon certain topics, but I would be certainly happy to answer some of your questions. Thank you so much for being patient, and thank you so much for listening, for being actively listening this particular presentation. And I now open this forum for the question and answers, please.